First-time home buyers have a lot of questions about buying a home in 2023, and we're going to talk about 5 hot topics. The first, interest rates. The second will be how to overcome interest rates with a temporary buydown. We'll talk about seller-paid closing costs, also down payment assistance, and pre-approvals. Stick around to the end because we also have a bonus tip for you as well. Want to know how to buy a house? We'll get you home. How about we talk about the most controversial thing first? Peter, why don't you go ahead and start talking about interest rates?
First thing, head on, interest rates. Hottest topic of the year is interest rates. In fact, I'd love to hear in comments below what your perspective on interest rates are. So let's talk about the reality from my chair. Here's a chart from the Federal Reserve showing 50 years of interest rates. I realized after looking at this that I've actually experienced 30 years of this starting right about here.
Man, that makes you sound old.
Well, yeah, probably does. The circle at the end of this shows what's happened over the last year, causing many buyers to keep renting. I guess because rents aren't going up. Well, I don't think that's true, but rates have risen significantly since January of 2021. Now, you've all read the clickbait, right? Interest rates have doubled, and we're talking about this little blip upwards here. That has caused many buyers to decide to keep renting. So fewer buyers on the market means lower demand. It means that housing inventory has increased, and it means that the buyers today are getting better values on homes. Now, a lot of buyers are not going to buy a home, and that's fine for you if you decide to take this opportunity to go find a home. Let's assume I met this guy in 1991. He says rates are too high, prices are too high. So he wants to wait for rates like we had a couple of years ago. So he waits. And meanwhile, you see rates are coming down over that period of time. Meanwhile, housing prices are going up, but he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits. In fact, he rents during this time and he waits for 30 years until rates finally hit what he wants, which was just a couple of years ago. So he buys that $120,000 house 30 years later, but now the price is $423,000.
And he was renting for 30 years. He could have paid off a mortgage in that time.
And here's what he looks like now. I'd love to ask this guy if it was worth waiting 30 years.
Tip number 2, temporary buydowns. Have you heard of this option yet? This is one way for buyers to reduce their payment over the first 1 to 3 years of their home ownership. The short summary of this is it's a fixed rate loan, and your rate is reduced as much as 3% for the first year, then 2% for the second year, and then 1% the third year. And then going forward, it's a fixed rate for the remaining of your mortgage. We do need a plan for this though, as it can only be used if the seller is paying towards your costs. So we definitely need to discuss this prior to you making an offer. This is a very common program over the past few months as a way to combat today's higher interest rates. We've got a video link in the description below, and we highly encourage you to watch it for more information. I mentioned seller paid closing costs, and that's tip number 3. This hasn't been used in recent years, but seller paid closing costs is a real option going into this year. If you have money for down payment but not closing costs, this may be an option. If you are in a multiple offer situation though, you may not get the deal if you're asking for seller paid closing costs because the seller is going to have multiple offers that they get to choose from. This is something that we will want to talk about during your pre-approval stage.
We should also talk about entry cost assistance, and in fact that is tip number 4, otherwise known as down payment assistance. These programs have not been as common over the past couple of years due to the hot market. Now we're finding sellers are open to receiving offers that include down payment assistance. So entry cost assistance can be used towards either down payment or closing costs or both. And for some buyers who are in a competitive offer situation and maybe can't request seller paid closing costs, using entry cost assistance to pay for their closing costs may be the ideal option. We deal with federal, state, community programs, and those are the kinds of things that once we have your pre-approval, we're going to automatically review those for you to see if that can end up being a benefit for you.
Tip number 5, Preapprovals. Imagine you go out shopping for a home and you find your dream home and you're not pre-approved. And then you meet with a loan officer afterwards and finding out you don't qualify. That can be a bummer. And it's really important that you get pre-approved prior to shopping. So how our team does that is we go ahead, get your application, we'll collect income docs, review credit, review assets. We'll meet with you on a Zoom call and go over that information and go over real life scenarios for you to have realistic expectations when you do go out shopping for your dream home.
Okay, so here's your bonus tip. It's called optoutprescreen.com. Did you know that when your credit is pulled, that the credit bureaus sell your name and phone number and the fact that you were interested in getting a mortgage? They sell it to mortgage companies. That means you'll be barraged with spam mail and phone calls after your credit is pulled. If you go to optoutprescreen.com and fill out your information, that's the site that the credit bureaus have set up where you can request that your information is not sold. That is a great website. We're going to put the link in the description below. And once you do it, I think it's good for 5 years. So just go ahead and go to optoutprescreen.com.
Thanks for watching with us today. Please go ahead and subscribe, comment, share this video with your friends, and hit the little bell in the corner for future notifications. Happy 2023.